Hush now, darling, the moon's gone blind.
Chapter 7. Beginnings. The roads of West Denver stretched out before me, technically Lakewood, Colorado, rolling with Green Mountain on my right, its golden grasses blurring as I rode alongside it. The wind in my face dried my eyes, but I kept my head up with the muscles in my neck and shoulders making not only my eyes dry, but my neck and back sore. A double whammy. My breaths came hard and fast, and my thumping 17-year-old heart kept the rhythm with the dead Kennedys, California über alles. My legs no longer pedaling a big wheel or a Schwinn Varsity, but a tour de force capable road bike with skinny tires, down tube shifters, and narrow, rounded handlebars. There was no carbon fiber in sight, no cell phone to distract, just the organic sound of the wheels with 64 spokes humming at 25 miles per hour. My eyes blurring from the wind and the sweat dripping from under my heavy Bell helmet, I wiped the salt from my eyes and started climbing up Dinosaur Ridge and towards Red Rocks. This was my favorite route, a 16-mile loop that challenged the best cyclists with steep hills, western headwinds, and some of the most beautiful views in the city. I trained this loop every day. But today, I was heading up to Evergreen to visit my mom and sister. My feet were locked into the pedals with leather straps, tightened securely so my feet would not slip out. I wore leather gloves with a mesh backing. My kit included neoprene tights with a leather chamois and a yellow wool short-sleeved jersey. My legs were shaved bare, and the wind on them reminded me of how far I'd taken this cycling thing since I bought my bike only a few months ago. Just a few miles behind me, in Dad's and my Lakewood apartment, The Point, named after its athletic club, my bedroom wall was plastered with the magazine cutouts of my favorite cyclists, Davis Finney, Greg LeMond, Alexi Graywall, and the entire 7-Eleven racing team, all sporting their muscular, shaved biker legs. I used to just sit outside in my cycling shorts simply to burn in those cyclist tan lines. My lungs were burning now as I crested Dinosaur Ridge, a steep ascent that avoided the highways and dropped into Morrison. The hill crest just ahead, I focused on the corner that marked the end of my ascent. Each road marker a mini goal accomplished. This grueling climb on a racing cassette and only 10 gears strained my legs to the limit. Damn legs, get bigger, I thought, as the hill slowed me down to a near crawl. I imagined my big wheel passing me. Between rides, my bedroom became my sanctuary, my place to drop in a heap of sweat and exhaustion. To christen my decision to live with him, my dad bought me a big waterbed that would roll and tumble when I flopped into it, the magazine covers on my wall rocking with my body until the waves died down. At the foot of the bed, my stereo with a growing collection of punk and new wave records. I used these to psych myself out for a ride. The Cure, Love Cats, playing as I looked at my legs to see if they were remotely resembling those in the pictures on my wall. I straightened my leg to check out the quad definition, stood up and looked at the backside to see if I had any hamstrings yet, flexed my calves to see if there was any muscle belly separation, and lo and behold, there was. Ta-da! Screaming into Morrison at 40 miles per hour, catching up to the tourists lollygagging down the road, trying to figure out how in the hell to get to the auditorium, I slowed my descent and made sure they saw me in their rearview mirror. Waving, I'd smile, and they moved over onto the shoulder. There was always something rewarding about catching up to vehicles, and even more so when they gave way to the intimidation of my 120-pound body and bike. I turned into the small town of Morrison, the gateway to Red Rocks Park and amphitheater. Always traffic, one bike shop, a few restaurants, and an ice cream shop with a steep mountain rising from behind the shops. None of these mattered. My mission now was to climb the 2,500 feet in 16 miles to downtown Evergreen and another 5 miles to get to Mom's house. Accessorizing cycling took more than the few bike trinkets at Kmart. It took a store that had passion for sports and cycling. Dad and I spent a lot of time at the new REI in Denver. It was new to Denver. Nothing fancy, just rows of camping gear with cycling equipment. Dad liked it because he could scope out camping supplies, and I liked it for the cheap tires and tubes. I also found my first pair of cycling shoes here, a black pair of Cities, made in Italy, with the iconic Italian flag logo on the shoe leather. The soles were made from wood to keep the shoe stiff. In time, my new puppy would eat the tip of my shoe right off, but today they were locked in and climbing. Lower Bear Creek Road started steep, winding through rocky canyons, the curves tight that slowed traffic but also created blind spots. To avoid the added danger, I pushed down harder, straining the chain to its limit. My legs protested the extra push, the higher cadence, and my face contorted to shut them up, just for that little extra speed. Any extra second or two you could give yourself to cushion the driver's reaction time from behind you could potentially save your life. Not only did I use the cycling magazines to motivate me, I actually learned something too. My lungs were burning, the sun was beaming down, clouds building in the distance, but not here yet. Would they be a problem? Cycling in Colorado, especially in the afternoons, could always turn into that raging storm Chris and I endured. My legs on fire pushing down those new City shoes with every bit of power they had left, and the shoes' cleats mounted to a wooden sole squeaked with each pedal stroke. The repetition, pain, squeak, pain, squeak, made the ride to Evergreen seem a long way off. Hot and thirsty, I rounded a corner, Idledale just ahead. Idledale wasn't really a town. There were a few homes and a post office, but not much else, buried in tall trees that grew over the highway. Idledale was a quaint landmark letting me know that I was about halfway up. There was, however, a bar. It was a biker bar, a small, log cabin-style building with Harleys parked outside on a dirt lot. There was also a Coke machine. It glowed bright red and I saw it, mouth dry and parched. That was a treasure I could not pass up. I looked behind me to make sure no one was coming and crossed the road into the parking lot. The gravel under my skinny tires crunched as I approached the Coke machine. Just then, two big burly guys walked out of the bar, leather chaps, boots with American flag bandanas, and thick beards covering their mouths. They watched me curiously as I rode over, looking at me quizzically and with skepticism. Cyclists were a somewhat new phenomena in America. Out of breath, I stopped before the machine and, oh shit. My feet still strapped into the pedals with no hope of removing them, I watched the Coke machine change its orientation from vertical to horizontal and crash to the ground. How humiliating. The bikers, they just nodded, smiled, lit a cigarette, and ignored me from thereafter. The clouds increased in size, and the winds picked up, making my ride along Upper Bear Creek just that much more difficult. With my destination so close, why torment me with your winds, Colorado? I raised my fist in objection, but pushed on. My old bus stop arrived, and I started up the hill. How would my new talents fare now? Remembering my old dusty Schwinn that I refused to ride because its tires were too skinny, the ones on this bike were not only narrower, but slick, bald like an old man's head. The dirt road crunched as I turned off the pavement. Turns out, they fared pretty well. That added power from 17-year-old legs in training got up the hill pretty fast. Before I knew it, the driveway was in sight and I was back home. I leaned my bike in the garage next to Mom's Subaru, I won't say it, and walked inside. "I made it," I said, walking in. Mom and Chris were in the kitchen making spaghetti for my arrival. Mom was clearly encouraging me after making her watch Breaking Away. My sister stirred the pot of noodles. She looked at me in my Lycra kit, dropped the wooden spoon into the boiling water, and walked up to me. She looked up and down.
"You shaved your legs?"
she asked in an unbelieving tone. "Yeah."
And why? So you can go faster?"
she said even more mockingly. I wanted to explain the safety nuances of shaved legs and dispel the myths of aerodynamics, which has nothing to do with why we shave our legs. I wanted to give her the medical rationale as to when the nurses need to scrub embedded tarmac from your flesh after a crash. They don't need to try and shave over the sand and tar. But she answered her own question, not waiting for mine.
"You look like a T-Rex,"
she said as she pulled her arms in tight, making them appear small and short, and started stomping around the kitchen.
"Scree!"
she mimed. The funny thing is, she thought she was making fun of me. Instead, she was letting me know that I looked exactly like the racers on my bedroom wall. Our house on the hill stood erect, proudly facing the Rocky Mountains, built with the heart and soul of a family who would try and rebuild the son and brother lost 12 years ago. His small hands and small body, wavy blonde hair, and an infectious smile. Davey, a determined little boy, would never leave my side and never stop loving me. He would watch me and follow me everywhere I went, would escape the confines of his crib to drag himself into my bed that came up to his chest, just to snuggle next to the warmth of his big brother, lay his head on my chest, and find the comfort and peace in life to fall asleep. His soul built into the walls of our home, each 2x6 and 2x4 hand-cut and nailed into place, securing a legacy that would never be forgotten. His life was preserved in the love of obsessively fine details. Its hardwood floors shined to perfection, every plank perfectly measured. Oak stairs that climbed to the master bedroom, each obsessively sanded and stained. Fine-tuned crown molding delicately placed to warm the home, their joints never tight enough. The large open floor plan of the home was warmed by unique accents, dividing doors, framed windows, brick half wall in the dining room with vines draping to the floor, so that every time you stepped inside, it felt like the home wrapped you in a hug. Each room a part of Davey's personality. The upper living room, a large fireplace, soft furniture, and plush carpet. The large window looking out at Monkey Mountain and our trampoline with hand-built tree fort. The stairs ascended into a graceful bend up to the master bedroom, filled with light and love. Below the bedroom, the kitchen, always warm and the smells of home-cooked meals heightened with views that could only be compared to heaven itself. The lower family room with cathedral-like ceilings and high paddle fans, warmed by a wood-burning stove backed by Mom's rock wall. The basement with our old lives, the heart of my brother, not just supporting the weight of our family above, but preserving the warmth of his memory in its foundation, as if every nail, every board, every stone had been placed as a tribute to his short life. Our blood, broken bones, shattered wrists, and impaled body parts could not stop us from building our shrine to Davey's life. No physical challenge, not even those cold, wet winters with ice water dripping into scattered buckets across the floor, could deter our frantic attempt to preserve his life in wood and steel. Yet in the end, it wasn't the physical challenges that brought it all down, but the emotional ones. I gazed out the window towards the massive Mount Evans skyline while my sister was still prancing around like a T-Rex, snarling and baring her teeth, and my mind wandered back to a few months ago when Dad and I had left the house. The drive to Denver was quiet. Dad and I just sat as his pickup cut through the highway at night, its dim lights only illuminating the streaks of white lines along Interstate 70. After our sleepless night in the hotel, we were welcomed in with Ken and his family. Ken was Mom and Dad's marriage counselor. I thought it very strange to bring my suitcase into their home to find refuge, but I didn't question their hospitality nor Dad's motives. He needed friends. After a week, Dad and I moved into the Point Apartments. He and I climbed up the 3 stories of stairs, paused at the top while he shuffled for his keys to unlock the door. The latch clicked and the door creaked open. The smell of tenants years gone by, mingling with Lysol and carpet cleaner, wafted out of the apartment. Its small, dark kitchen and the drab carpet in the living room fired a shot of change that hit me in the chest like a belly flop into a pool of water. I walked into the living room, the drapes closed, the room dark. Dad flipped on the light. Its white walls mingled with the tan carpet lit up, highlighting a couple of small stains, tan drapes with red and blue accents covering the sliding glass door behind it. I walked up and slid them open. The sound of plastic wheels sliding along the steel rails broke the silence. Bright light, white, blinding, just for a moment until my eyes adjusted. A small patio outside, overlooking the athletic club and parking lot, and beyond that an open view of the city of Denver, its skyline of tall buildings jutting up in the distance like a baby's mouth with only one tooth. I looked out at the view. "Yeah, I know," Dad said. "It's not evergreen, but I thought it would be comfortable, and the club across the street has an indoor basketball court, swimming pools, and even a sauna," he said, trying to sound chipper, disguising his overwhelming disappointment that the curveball life just threw him. "Dad," I said, "it's beautiful. I love it. Where's my room?" Gave him a quick hug and proceeded to take ownership of the entire apartment. My room had an even nicer view, the window overlooking Golden, Colorado, and the rolling plains to the north. And at night, the lights of the city came alive. Beautiful, stretching almost endlessly to the horizon. I was reminded of flying over Chicago at night. I loved the lights. This was my new home, and this was my new life. An entire apartment. Better yet, an entire world to myself. Dad would travel for 4 days at a time, leaving me to my own. A school that was no longer an hour away, and stores I could walk to. A place to rent a VHS tape, any genre I wanted to see, R-rated or otherwise. An athletic club with indoor bikes, pools, courts, and a bar just down the street. A Denny's. A block away, a King Soopers, and parking lots and roads that connected and created that labyrinth of endless opportunities to explore, just like Palatine. I had died and gone to heaven. Steve was sitting on my waterbed, The Cure, Japanese Whispers, playing on my turntable, lighting up the room with melody. Steve was rhythmically bouncing, making waves on my bed. "Let me take your hand, I'm shaking like milk," he sang. "Do, do, 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 do," I harmonized. We sat there writing poetry and sharing with each other. He'd read me a poem. I sat cross-legged as the bed rocked and swayed. "Steve, that's really good," I said. "I think I understood what you're trying to say," I thought. People are hungry for bread, poor, standing in line and their feet are getting sore, right? No, you don't get it, Steve said, flopping back on my bed, making the waves bigger. The poem isn't just about bread lines, it's about how the whole system keeps us dependent. Look, the first part goes, paper dolls dance in lines, waiting for their daily crust, while men in suits count golden dust. He sat up, eyes intense. See? The paper dolls are us, all of us, just standing there thinking we're free, but we're not. We're just paper. Get it? I turned my head from the city view to look at him and stared at him blankly. Okay, listen to this part, he continued, getting more animated. Their strings pulled tight by invisible hands, while Reagan sleeps and Nancy plans. It's about control, like that Devo song. We think we're making choices, but we're not. So, it's about puppets? I asked. Steve groaned and threw a pillow at me. Sometimes I forget you still listen to Journey. Sometimes I did, but I was getting better. What did you write? Steve asked. It's not done yet, I said. Give it here. Steve stole my pad of paper and started reading it aloud. My Bed? He read the title. Sounds like Barry Manilow. He cracked a cynical smile at me and I rolled my eyes. Okay. He took a breath. My bed. I have such fun in my bed. Last night, I had a nun in my bed. There's always someone in my bed. The poem ended there. At the same time, Japanese whispers ended and the skipping sound of the record repeated in the background. Clip, scratch, skip. Clip, scratch, skip. Clip, scratch, skip. And Steve began to sing my poem. My bed. I have such fun in my bed. There's always someone in. I joined in. My bed. Wait a second. Steve started writing. When he finished my poem, he handed it to me, and like the musical stylings of Barry Gibb and Barbra Streisand, we sang harmoniously, together rhythmically nodding our heads in sync to the record-scratching sound.
My bed is a fantasy.
My bed ain't a place to sleep. My bed's so warm, I'm never cold. When I'm in my bed, I perform like gold. Well, and repeat, my bed, and louder, I have such fun in my bed. That day, Living Spaghetti was born, a duet, one punk rock nerd and one wannabe new waver with shaved legs and waterbed. Steve and I woke up to loud banging on the roof of the apartment. Bang, 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 bang! And it went all through the morning. Ugh, no! Steve yelled and pulled the blanket over his head. What the hell time is it? He asked. My small alarm clock with red numbers glared at us. 6 a.m. This was the second day in a row. Our weekend sleep-in and chill once again killed by the sound of roofers. Determined not to let it happen again, we walked to King Soopers, bought a 6-pack of 3.2% Coors, and walked it back home. The work on the roof had stopped, but we were convinced they'd be back again in the morning. I tore a sheet of blank paper from below, my bed, and started writing. Steve slid open the patio door and looked up. I think we can make it, he shouted, and started to climb up the deck railing. I finished writing and looked out on the patio and saw him, balancing on the rail with one hand clinging to the overhang above. He was looking down to the parking lot. You could die from up here, he said. Geez, Steve, and I ran over with my note. Hurry up and get on the roof before you kill yourself, you idiot. Steve climbed up, and once on the roof, I handed him the 6-pack and then climbed up myself. We looked on the roof until we saw the tools left behind by the workers, walked over and set the 6-pack down with the note that read, Dear construction workers, thank you for your hard work, but I am trying to sleep when you are banging on the roof above my head. This beer is for you. Please enjoy before 8 a.m. when my alarm goes off. Thank you." We really have no idea if they received the beer or the note because that was the last we heard from them. The script had flipped for me. The independence that I had always sought had come to fruition. Some days I'd just ride my bike to Regis. It was about 8 miles across town. Why? Because I could. The janitor would let me house my bike in his closet because I refused to lock up my baby with the BMX bikes chained up outside. And sometimes after school, my Regis friends and I would play football on the grassy field just below where the new high school building was being built. I'd get home when I'd get home. My 3 best friends at Regis, Timmy, Eric, and Mike, loved football, with the exception that we were too small to play. Except Tim. He probably should have tried out for the Raiders, but he insisted that team sports was just not his scene. Timmy, Eric, Mike, and me, an unlikely football crew. Tim was the biggest of us, dressed like a cowboy, complete with a Texas drawl that he never earned because he wasn't from Texas, but his "aw shucks" act couldn't hide his sharp mind. When I caught him with the ball, I'd end up draped over his back as he just kept moving, dragging my skinny ass down the field like extra baggage. Eric wore his Letterman jacket every day like a shield, desperate to be seen as a jock, despite the fact that he'd never competed in any team sports, and he could never keep up when I'd sprint past him. I'd make fun of him sticking out my tongue like the roadrunner passing his nemesis Coyote. Mike, with his perfectly parted, feathered hair, played the part of the intellectual while being secretly athletic. His passes would find me with laser accuracy as I streaked across the field. And there I was, small and wiry, rebellious to a fault, disregarding my size, but the fastest of the bunch, cruising into the end zone like a T-Rex who happened to actually catch the ball once in a while, despite his little hands. We were the kids who loved football but never made the team. Well, except for Tim, who could have been a Raider if he hadn't been so dead set against organized sports. Things were great, but when Dad got home, his gloom filled our small apartment. Oftentimes, I'd come home from school, he'd have returned from work. I saw the evidence of his arrival: KFC bucket on the dining room table, a sock in the hallway, shoes randomly separated in the living room, Diane and Sam on TV serving beers to Norm, and quiet sobbing in his bedroom. I'd lay down on my waterbed, my head and his separated by a thin wall between us. I could hear his gasps for air as he cried. "I wish I were dead," muffled by the pillow his face was buried in. Feeling helpless, I loaded Tears for Fears onto my turntable, slipped on my headphones, and waited for Dad's nightmare to end. There was a moment that I believed that, just maybe, Dad was getting back in the saddle, to be the Marlboro Man, adventuring into the wild frontier without a care or commitment. He was, after all, doing a lot of good. He rode his bike as often as me, and there were days that I was convinced he would drop me. Yes, me! His legs were strong, his bike was fast, and he committed to cycling with a passion fueled by his misery, turned anger, turned obsession. I bit my tongue to say, "Slow down," and instead dug deeper just to hold the wheel of my old man. Dad had even found a girlfriend. Well, maybe not a girlfriend, more of a guilty pleasure. She was cute, young, curly nappy hair with a button nose. Dad introduced her and we went out to pick up a pizza and a movie. "Have you seen this one?" she asked, handing a VHS case to me. "Risky business?" I said. "How about these?" I asked her while holding up Repo Man and Suburbia. Secretly, this was just a test. Was she cool? She could be too cool and I might like her too much. Or totally lame and I wouldn't even bother. "Emilio Estevez, isn't that Martin Sheen's son?" she asked. Okay, kinda cool, I thought, and put the tapes away. Fact was, Steve and I had already watched these a half-dozen times each. After pizza and a movie, Dad gentlemanly drove her home in his new convertible Ford Mustang he had leased. I heard the V8 engine roar in the parking lot just over the ambient noise of the city, its lights sparkling as his Stang drove off. A few days later, after getting off the bus and walking to the apartment, Ziggy Stardust on my Walkman, I opened the door and went into my room, took off my headphones and laid them on my waterbed. I heard a noise in Dad's bedroom. Was it Dad? I walked up to the door and raised my fist to give it a light knock when I heard a voice, and it wasn't his. "Tee," she giggled. "Thaddeus Jacob Gallus, you are so sweet," she said, giggling. "I need some water. Do you want some?" she asked him, my feet still planted in front of his door. "Sure, get me a glass, and can you add ice?" he asked. "Sure, I'll be right back." Oh shit, I thought, feet still frozen in place. I ran as stealthily as I could to the patio. The door was open. I crouched down in the corner and tried to make myself small. Below the curtains, 2 bare feet and calves walked by. The sink turned on and the sound of the rushing water. I heard 2 ice cubes plopping in a glass and the pitch of the water changed as the glass filled. Then 2 bare feet and calves walked back. The door to the bedroom opened and closed, and I made my escape. A block away, I picked up the payphone and dialed. The phone on the other end rang. "Hello?" the voice on the other end said. "Hey, Dad," I spoke. "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm running a little late, and I'll be home in about 30 minutes, I said. "Want me to pick something on my way home?" No, I'm fine. See you soon," he said and hung up. 30 minutes later, I came home, Dad and his girlfriend sitting on the sofa innocently watching MASH. Other hints of Dad's recovery was our trip to Hawaii. Dad invited everyone to go, including Mom. But after having filed paperwork with her lawyer and submitting to the court a restraining order against Dad, I suppose she believed it wouldn't have been the most strategic move on her part to say yes. After that restraining order, I took Timmy up to the house and we helped Dad load up his truck with the basic necessities to put in the apartment. A couple of chairs, silverware, pots and pans, and of course our personal items, clothes, pillows, my stereo, and bedroom furniture. We made one haul, with one pickup truck that only barely made a dent, adding much-needed warmth into the apartment. Mom was pissed. She thought the house had been robbed. She was angry at me, but I just let her squabble with Dad. I needed my stuff and a place to sleep. I used my sleeping bag on the empty floor of my room until Dad and I went to Big Sur, next to Casa Bonita, to pick out a waterbed. The salesman really wanted the deal and pitched me waterbeds with authority. He spoke about antibacterial features, the health benefits, and anti-wave features to lighten up the rocking motion. Now this right here, this is our top-of-the-line model. See these baffles? They're what we call wave reduction technology. No more seasickness, just pure comfort. And check this out. Medical-grade vinyl with silver-ion antimicrobial treatment. Kills 99.9% of bacteria on contact. Doctors actually recommend these for back pain. The warm water conforms to your spine, creates perfect alignment. This temperature control? Digital. Keeps it exactly where you want it, summer or winter. And these corner braces? Aircraft-grade aluminum. This bed isn't going anywhere. Plus, the ladies love a waterbed. Just saying. Tell you what, I'll throw in the deluxe fill kit, conditioning treatment, and premium sheet set. Trust me, this bed is going to change your life. What do you say? Dad, I yelled and pointed. I want this one. With the bed loaded in the back of the truck, Dad and I watched the cliff divers at Casa Bonita, him with a coffee and a sopapilla. Want to go to Hawaii? He asked. A few months later, Chris and I were packed up. But the night before last, Steve gave me a horrible haircut. He attempted this after a bottle of Boone's Farm and it didn't turn out like either of us imagined.
"Let me give you a mohawk, Paul. Please," he begged.
Steve? No. Hello? Regis? Fathers and nuns? My dad? I said, with a cup of Boone's Farm in my hand.
"All right, I'll give you a cool, respectable haircut," he said.
The shaver switched on and buzzed loudly in my ear.
"This will be really cool." "Oops," he said. "No, it's okay. I'll fix it. Make it look cool."
His girlfriend, Deb, looked on, her short dyed white hair and thick eyeliner. She was pretty in her own way, beautiful round blue eyes and plump lips. She just smiled and said, "He's your best friend, Steve."
"No, this will look cool,"
Steve said, and continued. At the end, he said,
"Go look in the mirror. There's a little bald spot in the back, but it'll grow out."
The haircut was horrible. The back of my head cut in uneven waves, more like speed bumps, with a patch of hair missing at the base of my skull. The top of my head, the hair was cut short so it would spike. He left my bangs longer so I could drape them over my eyes. But enough Boone's Farm and the shout from the bathroom wasn't, "Eek!" It wasn't, "Holy Mother of God!" Instead, it was, "Cool." My new haircut, shirt and tie with a pair of slacks and dress shoes, my sister, Dad, and I made our way to the airport. My dad was worried that they wouldn't let me on the airplane. "Why would you do that to yourself, Paul?" he asked. I answered honestly. I didn't like it either, not after sobering up. Thankfully, we all made it on the flight and out to Oahu. It was a fun trip, designed primarily to make Mom jealous, to get her back. He wanted her to see the life she was preparing to leave behind. After multiple attempts of serving Dad with divorce papers and multiple attempts to drive the stake deeper into his heart, Dad simply hired new attorneys to delay the divorce proceedings. He refused to let her go, like the controls on a crashing airplane. The Lockheed Martin L-1011, Dad's new plane for international and overseas flights, hummed along over the Pacific until the view of the island came into sight. We disembarked, were laid with flowers, and took the shuttle to our luxury beachfront hotel. Chris and I explored the ocean beaches, walking barefoot, dodging waves, and feeling the warm ocean water mixed with sand squish between our toes. We walked everywhere barefoot, including downtown and its arcades with their flashing lights and a chorus of music from different machines, while Dad sucked up Mai Tais and watched the hula girls sway their hips back at the hotel. The important part of this trip wasn't the Pacific Ocean, nor the white sands of Waikiki, nor was it the ocean cruise that Dad had booked, hoping Mom would be on it. For me, it was meeting a group of kids my age who thought my hair was cool while at the arcade. We traded numbers and addresses on my last day there and would send letters. One girl, in particular, Beverly, cute, curly hair and wide-rimmed glasses, stood behind and rooted for me while I played Punch-Out expertly. I got her number too. Arriving home, life went back to normal. Chris went back to Mom's, and I went back to school. After school, I took a job at McDonald's where I met my first girlfriend. I was wiping the stainless steel counters as she raced past me with a brown McDonald's food tray, sliding along the counter, making it do a wheelie. Vroom! She created her own sound effects. We would have innocent, flirtatious competitions throughout the day like, who could make the biggest vanilla cone swirl? I had to work up the courage to ask her out. She was small, with thin, delicate fingers. She'd brush back her long, thick, dark brown hair. Her green eyes lit up when she smiled. How was I going to do this? Hi, I said. Her tray still popped up like a drag racer with its front wheels up.
Hi,
she said back. Hi, I said, still wiping the counter.
Hi.
Leslie replied, her tray still popped up. Hi, I said again, mentally kicking myself. She giggled, letting the tray drop flat.
You said that already.
Yeah, there's this thing at St. Mary's. I kept wiping the same spot on the counter.
A thing?
She brushed back her dark hair with those delicate fingers. Her nails were painted black. A dance thing, like with music and dancing. I was drowning here. And I was thinking, maybe if you weren't doing anything that night.
When is it?
Her green eyes sparkled with amusement. Oh, right. It's next Friday. I probably should have started with that.
And you're asking me to go?
Yes. I mean, if you want to. You don't have to, but it could be fun. Maybe, if you went. With me. I mean, there's music and stuff, and people dance, which is kind of obvious since it's called a dance, but you probably knew that already, and it's at St. Mary's, which is like this all-girl Catholic school. Not that that matters, I just thought you should know where it is. And, they have punch usually, and cookies maybe. I'm not really sure about the cookies, but definitely punch, and anyway, if you're not busy or anything, or even if you are busy but could maybe not be busy, that would be, cool? She smiled, covering her mouth with her hands, watching me sweat. This was a treat, something most girls would pay admission to watch. A boy wearing a gold and brown polyester uniform, bumbling like an idiot with a god-awful haircut.
Of course,
she said.
Sounds like fun.
The St. Mary's gym transformed under spinning lights and crepe paper streamers. The nuns patrolled the perimeter like sentries, their habits creating dark silhouettes against the decorated walls. The DJ played OMD's If You Leave like something straight out of a John Hughes movie while Leslie and I danced, her hair catching blue and purple light as she moved. The way she closed her eyes, swaying to the music, then opening them to catch my gaze and smile. She was perfect. The song changed to something slower, softer. A nun's flashlight beam swept across the dance floor like a lighthouse, making sure all dancers maintained appropriate Catholic school distance. Leslie stepped closer, her hands linked behind my neck, mine resting carefully at her waist. I became intensely interested in counting ceiling tiles and reciting baseball statistics in my head. It was the longest and shortest slow song ever. After our evening, we went back to the apartment, Dad on a trip to Germany. We sat on the sofa and flicked on the TV. I turned the channel to MTV. Stop Making Sense from Talking Heads played. David Byrne looking like a rubber man, dancing to a song inside his head, until I turned up the volume. I took a seat next to Leslie, my hands folded in my lap.
I had fun,
she said. I did too. And then something happened that I'd never felt before. A hand on my knee. Somehow, this triggered an immediate reaction in my pants. I grit my teeth, hoping she wouldn't notice. Her hand moved from my knee and found mine. Our fingers intertwined as David Byrne's voice faded into background noise. We turned to face each other, and then she leaned in. My first kiss was soft, uncertain, electric. Time seemed to stop, my heart thundering in my chest. One kiss became many, each more confident than the last. We explored this new territory with trembling hands and racing hearts, discovering parts of our bodies over corduroy pants and silky stockings. Much too soon, Leslie pulled back, flushed and breathless.
I really don't want to, but I told Mom I'd be home by 10.
She whispered in my ear. My whole body screamed in protest. I took a deep breath and blew it out from pursed lips, but I nodded. Walking her to the door felt like the longest journey of my life, my pants uncomfortably tight. Our good-night kiss held the promise of more, but for now, that promise would have to be enough. Writing this 40 years after these events, the thoughts are now whirlwinds filled with independence, joy, and freedom so strong, so tangible, it feels like it all happened yesterday. But these thoughts inharmoniously attempt to merge like a square peg through a round hole of such deep sorrow, of loss and betrayal. When a rocket leaves Earth on its way to the moon, such destruction and waste are needed to make this journey. The original rocket, 10 stories tall, breaks into smaller and smaller pieces as it flies away until there's almost nothing left. If it doesn't destroy the first stage, it never gets into orbit. If it doesn't destroy the second stage, it never leaves orbit. If it doesn't leave behind its LEM, it never gets off the moon. And the only thing left is the tiny little capsule holding only the essentials to complete the journey. It's selfishness in its purest form, really, a calculated waste of material, energy, and the devoted efforts of those who helped build the dream, all but for the purpose to propel one ship to its new destination. This was Mom's story. Her betrayal of my father, after building a life, building a family, and building a home that held the memory of my brother, would demand its destruction. In the years to come, she would sacrifice everything and everyone, including me and including my sister and our home, consuming all we had built together as fuel for her journey toward independence, even if it meant reaching her destination alone.
Darling, the moon's gone blind. Stars are hiding, they're hard to find. Shadows crawl, they're soft as silk. Drink your dreams like sour milk. Entropy, entropy, a monster in the mirror sees. Whisper slow, whisper sweet. Will you dance or will you weep? Clock hands twitch, they've lost their way. Nighttime swallows the light of day. Under your bed the floorboards creak. What do they want? What do they seek? Don't look too close, don't make a sound. It's only the dark, it's all around. Entropy, entropy, a monster in the mirror sees. Whisper slow, whisper sweet. Will you dance or will you weep? Clock hands twitch, they've lost their way. Nighttime swallows the light of day. Under your bed the floorboards creak. What do they want? What do they seek? Don't look too close, don't make a sound. It's only the dark, it's all around.